So, yet another video game adaptation, but this time it's an animation, and so that actually seems like maybe it'll fit. Maybe it'll be a good video game adaptation, finally. Fingers crossed? So, Ratchet and Clank is based off of the video games. It's a reboot, it's a new adaptation, while the video game for this movie is, well, it's already out. In Ratchet and Clank, some evildoers are destroying uninhabited planets and stealing parts of those planets to make up a whole new planet. And of course there's a group of intergalactic rangers that could stop them and could be a threat to them, so they send out an army of robots to deal with them. Meanwhile, a young Lombax named Ratchet wants to be one of these rangers. And with the help of a robot that knows all the evildoers' plans because he's a defective robot from the robot factory, together they will go to the Rangers and become Rangers themselves and stop this evil threat. That's the basic premise of this movie. Very much similar to The Huntsman Winter Soldier. Anyway, much like The Huntsman Winter's War, I was entertained with Ratchet and Clank, but it's not enough for me to say it was a well-liked movie. I like the animation in the movie. It looks like it's straight out of the game, just even more highly defined and, well, better graphics. So ultimately I did like the animation, but it's not anything like Zootopia or other animated films that have come out recently. But at the same time, it's no Norm of the North, at least. So I definitely didn't mind the animation style whatsoever. The acting is serviceable, and I think there are great hints of great chemistry with Ratchet and Clank because they are the heroes of our story, they're the partners of the team, the duo, but there's not a lot going for chemistry and great bonding and friendship. I mean, there are definitely hints of it, there are definitely moments where it does shine, but for the most part it's not great. It's not as great as it should be. It was flashy, it was fun, it was vibrant, but overall, most of the story feels like something that's been told time and time again with sci-fi and fantasy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but at the same time it doesn't bring as much new to the table as it should, in order for it to be really, really entertaining. I definitely laughed a few moments in this movie. Some of it mostly from some of the tad bit of meta humor within it. Yeah, some of the meta humor though is really, just like most of the jokes in this movie, very obvious, very first thing to come to your mind, very cliched to the point where it's not all that funny. But the most chuckles I got out of the meta humor in this movie are the times where it shows the planet or the place that the next scene is in, and then they'll have something underneath it pertaining to something meta about the movie. It seems like I was the only one that noticed that because there wasn't a lot of people laughing during that. Maybe they just read the planet's name and they're like, oh, we're there, we don't need to read what's underneath. I think that's the major downfall for this movie. It feels too easy, feels too cliched, it feels too first thing that comes to your mind. Because of that, it feels really formulaic, it really feels like everything's been done before and it's not bringing a lot new to the table, which ultimately makes it a pretty meh sort of movie unless you've never seen those things before, which I highly doubt. Also, a lot of the humor did feel like it was for the younger audience. A lot of kid-type jokes that were either really lame or just sort of eh. I mean, don't get me wrong, there wasn't anything that made me roll my eyes or really hate the film, but overall, a lot of it just felt pretty meh. It just felt like it was just eh. Now I will say there is one moment where the movie wasn't predictable and wasn't cliched. For the most part, most of the major twists and turns are very cliched and you know what's going to happen. There's too much foreshadowing in the film that you realize, okay, this is how it's going to play out. Yep, this person's going to betray this person's going to betray this person, we know what's going to happen. However, the one thing that I expected would happen, and because the movie foreshadowed it happening, and it doesn't happen, I was actually really surprised by that. Because in these types of movies where our main character are partners, they're partners in crime, so to speak, usually the partners or the friends, they end up breaking up and having a quarrel or not liking each other and then coming back together to stop the evildoers or just whatever, you know. And while there is a moment in this movie where they split up, they never split up because they have a fight with each other. And it's kind of funny because this movie does foreshadow that maybe Clank will get jealous of Ratchet because Ratchet is getting a lot of fame. I mean, hell, he's even wearing Clank as like a sort of backpack sort of thing. And so it does foreshadow that maybe they'll have an argument, maybe they'll break up. Never happens in the movie, and that caught me off guard. I'll give the movie that. Other than that, everything else, very predictable. And I will say this, there is one moment that I really laughed out loud. There's only one laugh out loud moment for me, and that was this moment. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to show you, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the scene so you know what scene I'm talking about. There is a funeral for a henchman. A henchman voiced by Sylvester Stallone. So anyway, there's a funeral for this henchman, and something happens during that scene that we just could not stop laughing, my dad and myself. Other than that, most of the laughs were just sort of chuckles or smiles, but for the most part, wasn't all that funny. So I'm going to give Ratchet and Clank 2.5 stars. So did you see Ratchet and Clank? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews of 2015 and 2016. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.